but just continuing on that same theme, I was struck to see our memory verse for this coming week. It's Philippians 2, verse 14, which says, do all things without grumbling or disputing. And I was reminded of it because I had read a verse recently in Isaiah that stood out to me. It's from Isaiah 45. If you want to turn there, several brothers have shared from all around here, 42, 48, 50, that in Isaiah 45, it says, there's a verse that just stood out to me for some reason. It says, they will say of me, verse 24, only in the Lord are righteousness and strength, and men will come to him, and all who are angry at him will be put to shame. And that phrase, all who are angry at him will be put to shame, it stood out to me because I thought, who would dare to be angry at God? And while we might not ever say, I'm angry with you, Lord, or anything like that, the truth is we may say something similar or, code words, so to speak, for being angry with God, which is different. It's, I wish this was different. And I feel that's a way in which we can have that, that attitude of taking issue with any of God's dealings with me. And I feel what the Lord was speaking to me is, yeah, you may never say, I'm angry with you, Lord, yet do you take issue with any of the Lord's dealings? If so, do you realize that complaint, it says, all who are angry at him will be put to shame. And I think about the final day when we stand before the Lord, if there's anything in which I have I've taken issue with some of God's dealings with me, it's going to be a source of embarrassment for me in the final day. And why is that? Why will it be a source of embarrassment? Because as we heard earlier, even this evening, it's out of certain appointments that the Lord establishes in our lives that he desires to produce the fruit of the Spirit and the life of Jesus Christ. And in the final day, we'll see that these are the areas where God specifically appointed that he might get all the glory, so that, as Wenhai mentioned earlier, so that no man may boast. And it delights God to use the foolish things of the world and the undesirable things to shame the wise, that he might get full glory, and that no man can boast in his presence. And yet, where I take issue with his dealings, I don't seek for grace. It's exactly what Raymond and Tyler were mentioning. I'm not humble. Whenever I take issue with his dealings, it's a clear sign that there's pride there. And when there's pride, I can't receive grace, but two, I've noticed I don't even seek for grace. And God's purpose won't be fulfilled in those various circumstances if I'm taking issue with him, if I don't fully cooperate. I've noticed in my own life that one of the biggest hindrances to cooperating with the Lord and to seeing the Lord's purpose fulfilled isn't resistance, it's just being passive, it's just being dead weight. And I was thinking about, have you ever tried to move someone who's asleep? It's really hard. They're not actively resisting. It's, in fact, I think it's harder to move like dead weight, body where somebody's asleep or unconscious or something. It's actually harder to move that person than a person who's actively fighting. Somebody who's actively fighting, you can almost use judo and you can kind of use their energy against them. But somebody who's like a limp noodle or a sack of potatoes, it's very hard to move them. And I feel that attitude of taking issue with the Lord's dealings, it may not be active resistance, but I'm not on the same page as the Lord. I'm not cooperating. I'm not saying, have thine own way, Lord. And anywhere I take issue with the Lord's dealings, it's going to be a source of embarrassment because the Lord wasn't able to accomplish his purpose in my life in that appointment. And I was thinking how we have to have a revelation of God's purpose and power and wisdom and love, because it's only when we really see and appreciate his wisdom and the love that is behind every one of the appointments that he makes in our lives, that will be propelled to action, propelled to cooperation, delivered from discouragement and grumbling and despair, and be cast into his arms, even though we're weak, even though we're broken, but for his strength and for the hope that he provides. And as I was thinking about areas where where I have this attitude of I wish it was different, a few different areas it can creep into. One is, as we've heard tonight as well from Daniel and Tyler, I wish I was different. I've noticed that can creep in, that attitude, some aspect of myself. It could be a permanent thing. It could be decline. It could be a health issue. But I can take issue with, there's something about me that I don't like. Another area is, I wish they were different. There's some aspect of some other person that it could be a coworker or a spouse or a child or anything like that. And but there's something about them that I wish were different. It says in Romans 15, verse 7, accept one another just as Christ has accepted you. And I've noticed that wishing someone is different is disobedience to that command to accept others. So I might say, I wish I were different. I might say, I wish they were different. I might say I wish this were different in regards to some circumstance. It could be a job or, work situation, housing situation, an accident, an emergency. And what I've noticed, what I want to mention is, I have seen for myself that there's a tendency to view a particular situation as it's a particularly hindering situation. I can think, if only this thing weren't here, then I could really follow the Lord. Then I could really please the Lord. Then I could really, but there's that, if only this weren't this way. And what the Lord has encouraged me is, instead, I have to view that thing, whatever it is, as particularly designed by God in his wisdom and love to equip and perfect me in the most needful way. Whatever the circumstance that I view as a hindrance or take issue with or wish was slightly different, whether it's me or them or this, I have to see it as a divinely appointed, equipping aspect of my life. It's as though I feel the Lord's asked me, so that's why you can't live for me? I think about this sometimes, I'll say even the noise in my house, I can go, I can't even think straight. And I feel the Lord has asked me, actually, so that's why you can't live for me? You can't think straight? That's keeping you. And it's encouraged me to think, no, this is the pathway that he's marked out by which I might live all out for him. You think about blindness for Fanny Crosby. It was the pathway that God had marked out by which she lived all out for him. Think about arthritis for Annie Johnson Flitt. It was the pathway by which the Lord had marked out she might live all out for him. Or the concentration camp for Corrie ten Boom. It's the pathway by which the Lord appointed she might live all out for him. Or Richard Wurmbrand's prison. Or I can see those things that are massively, undesirable from a temporal or a worldly perspective. Can I say that about my challenging boss or troubling child or nagging health issue? That this is the pathway that God has marked out by which he desires that I might live all out for him. And I want to, but as I said before, I have to have a revelation. I have to have a reminder of God's purpose. There's a great quote I heard by Elizabeth Elliot. The secret is Christ in me, not me in a different set of circumstances. And if we're not careful, we can think the secret is me in a different set of circumstances, but that's not true. The secret is Christ in me in the circumstances God has appointed. And what I need is a revelation that what I need in this moment is not a different set of circumstances, but I need Christ in me. And Lord Jesus, if you're in me, if you're alive in me, then I can sleep in the midst of the storm. I can walk on the water. I can sing while there are fleas in the bed. I can write poems with my arthritic fingers or whatever it is, right? The other thing I want to mention is, there's this phrase that's been mentioned at our church before. This guy, I can't remember his name. I can look it up and send it to you. But he said one of his favorite phrases was, not somehow, but triumphantly. And I like that attitude, not somehow, but triumphantly. And I've noticed that there's some things that I may not approach with a somehow attitude necessarily, but I still have an attitude of, I just got to make it through. And I've noticed recently that there are the situations where I feel like I just got to make it through. the Lord has reminded me, don't just make it through, not somehow make it through, but triumphantly. And the Lord reminded me of the verse, I think it's in Jude. It says, may the Lord lead you into the steadfastness of Jesus Christ. What is that steadfastness? Was the steadfastness of Jesus Christ steadfastness to just get through, just make it through? Definitely not. It says, I was asking the Lord, what was the steadfastness of Jesus Christ? And here's the verse he reminded me of, just in regards to this particular situation where I was thinking, I just got to get through. In 1 Peter, in let's see, chapter 2, verse 23, it says, 1 Peter 2:23, while being reviled, he did not revile in return. While suffering, he uttered no threats. But here's the steadfastness of Jesus Christ. He continued entrusting himself to him who judges righteously. He kept entrusting himself. And I was thinking, for me, I want to likewise continue to entrust myself to God, continue to be reminded of his purpose and his power and his love and his wisdom. And that's the steadfastness of Jesus Christ that I need to be led into, having a vision of God's purpose, where I transcend I don't take issue with any of his dealings. I don't grumble in any way. I don't wish anything were different. I don't have an attitude of just making it through. I say, Lord, what shall I say? As Jesus said in John chapter 12, what shall I say? Save me from this hour? No, it's for this purpose that you sent me to this hour. Father, glorify your name. I want your name to be honored. And Lord, I believe you're in control. And a word of hope that has blessed me many times. I'll close with this verse. It's in Psalm 119. What is a statement of humility? We've heard how pride keeps us from experiencing the life that I've tried to be describing here. What is a statement of humility? Psalm 119 in verse 32. I love this. I shall run the way of your commandments, for you will enlarge my heart. What a statement of confidence in the Lord. We can shrink, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, from fully declaring God's purpose, because we can think that's humble. That's not humble. Humility is to say, Lord, you will help me do all your will. It's actually possible for me to live all out for Jesus Christ in these set of circumstances. And I don't want to change the circumstance. I want Christ in me. And that's how I take it. You will enlarge my heart. You'll give me the ability. You'll allow me to partake of your nature, not that I just mope the way of your commandments, not that I walk the way of your commandments, but I run. I have full strength to go full steam and live all out for Jesus Christ in the life, in the circumstances, in the times that he's appointed. And I don't have to take issue with anything he's appointed. I don't have to wish anything he's appointed was different. I don't have to have the attitude of just making it through in anything, but I can ask the Lord, let me partake of the steadfastness of Jesus Christ, who kept entrusting himself to the Father and who kept receiving the strength that he needed to seek the glory of God in all things, rather than the change of his temporal circumstances in any way. It's a wonderful command we've been given in the memory verse this week. It's a wonderful warning, as I read from the beginning in Isaiah 45, verse 24, all who are angry at him will be put to shame. I don't want there to be any, as Brother Zach said on Sunday, I think, I don't want to have any regrets when I stand before the Lord. I don't want to have any. And I believe that if there's anything in which I take issue, if there's anything in which I'm tempted to complain or that I yield to complaining, I'm going to be put to shame. And I don't want that. And by God's grace, I believe that he will deliver me. He'll save me to the uttermost. I'm thankful that I get to run this race with you, brothers. Thanks.